Hello knitters, Fay Lynn from Strands Knitting Studio in San Clemente, California. And today I have On My Needles, which are classes and a tutorial, so stay tuned. Okay, On My Needles and the upcoming class is the Shetland Ruffle out of the silk that we just got in, and it's coming out really nice. Now I went ahead and blocked what I have here because when you knit lace, I'll put it somebody else's where it's all scrunched up. It's all scrunched up. When you do lace and you're doing a lot of knit-to-togethers and you're sort of pulling on everything. And so it gets very scrunched up. All lace does this. All lace you have to block. Depending on what it is, whether you wet block it or steam it. This one I steamed, and here it is pinned out. And then I just used my steamer and I steamed it a few times passing. And then I could have picked it up like 5 minutes later. It would have been ready. I just let it sit overnight because I did it right before I went to bed. But that's the Ruffle, Shetland Ruffle. And it's using our silk that we got in, Delish, which is 50% silk and 50% extra fine merino. And these are all the beautiful colors we have. And of course we have the black, the cream, and a white. And mine's out of the black and the cream. Yeah. So that class is this Sunday, the 9th, from 10 to 12. And this is an intermediate to, good intermediate pattern. Advanced beginner intermediate kind of pattern. So you're very comfortable with knit two together yarn overs because that's what you're doing. And again, like anything, it's about tracking your pattern. So like I have, that has repeated parts, like it repeats this thing 3 times in the row. So I have markers where the repeat is so that I know when I get to the marker, or even before the marker here, I know that this just turned out correctly. And if I don't, there's another place I check every time I'm knitting that section, and that's this row right here of this row that's consistent. That's number 7 stitch in the middle of this yarn over knit one section. So as long as that always hits my 7th stitch, I also know that I really have done it correctly and I don't have like a yarn over missing or something like that. So yeah, so this is fun. It's, this is a longer project. I find this very fun. Very fun because there's enough to keep you busy. It's very repetitive, so you'll get it down pretty quickly what's going on because it's very, very repetitive. And yeah, could be a good Christmas gift because you have time to get it done. Now I'm about, I think, halfway through my yarn. I haven't weighed it yet. I haven't weighed it yet, but I'm about halfway through my yarn. So I'm gonna just do these 2 skeins. Of course, if you want it longer, you could use more. If you wanted it wider, you just add on some more repeat sections and make it wider. So it's more like a shawl instead of a scarf kind of thing. So those are ways you can sort of play with patterns depending on what you're wanting it to be like when you're done. But I'm gonna just do the 2 skeins, one, so we know what the length really is, and because I don't want to do any more than that because I have other things on my needles, as we will see in a minute. So Shetland Ruffles is this Sunday from 10 to 12. Okay, so I was going to talk about this top we have in the store, that this silk yarn would be very beautiful with this top. This is the Trussel Tee, and it's got some construction around the shoulders. You can see you're going to pick up stitches in the front. You're going to knit the back, pick up stitches on that seam in the front, and then you do the lace part, and then after you do that, you're in a circle for the rest of it. Next thing on my needle is the felted bag, which is another class coming up. So there, I'm almost finished with the top part of this. I stopped so that I could do my I-cord out of the yarn. I still have another skein going. So here's the I-cord. Goes on forever. You'd make it like 6 feet. So this is probably, that's 3 feet. So this is probably about 4 feet. You make it 5 to 6 feet. Then when you felt it, like felt the bag, felt the strap, then you just cut the strap in half, and that's how you get your 2 handles, and you sew them on. So, and then what I think I might do is is, I think I'm only maybe 4 rows away from supposedly ending this. So what I think I'm gonna do is finish up my yarn, because why not? I don't want this hanging out, because I probably end up with like a half a skein at least left. And so in adding a few, we gotta remember this shrinks. So and it shrinks more lengthwise than it does widthwise. And so, just if you wanted a bigger bag. If you want a tiny bag, then stop here. There's also a version that's even smaller than this. There's also a version that's bigger than this. Now the big one calls for, I think it casts on, I looked at it and I think it was maybe 6 to 8 stitches more than this one. But she uses a solid, and she uses Cascade 220. She uses a solid doubled for the base, which would make it stronger. And you could do the same with even this and use a solid with this and for the base if you wanted to, but she does do that. So if you look at the pattern, it has that yarn doubled for the base. Now, you could also just make this bigger and it'd be fine. Obviously, if you doubled it, the base will be a little bit sturdier. You can also put a board in the bottom of the bag to make the base sturdier. A core, one of those foam core boards. You can do that to help make the base sturdier if you care. But that's several different options, and you have enough yarn to add a few stitches. So this, I think, was like 34, 36 stitches I cast on. So you could cast on 42 stitches or something, and it will be bigger all the way around. It'll be wider, and well, the length would be the same, but it'd be a bit wider. So we'll see what this felts up to and how this felts up. So next week I'll have it felted up so we can really talk about, you know, how big this actually comes out after it's felted, because they're always bigger than after you felt them. So this bag class is August 15th, which is a Saturday from 12 to 2. Okay, that's all I have for the actual store news. I did do an I-cord tutorial. So how do you do an I-cord making this? So stay tuned for that. All right, I'm gonna do an I-cord tutorial. So this I-cord is a standard everyday kind of I-cord. It's a tube, it's actually a tube that you get to knit flat, but you get to do something. And then there's also like I-cord edging, like the Sophie scarf, and that's done a different way than this. And there's an I-cord bind off, which is done different than this. So they look the same in that they have this rounded corner, like a bind off, you'll have the rounded corner. Sophie scarf gives you a rounded edge. And this we're going to use for the bag, the felted bag. This is going to become the handle. And she actually has you do like 6 yards of it. And I'm not quite to 6 yards yet. And then after you felt it, you're going to cut it in half, and those will be your 2 handles. All right, so this particular I-cord is a 5-stitch I-cord. They're often just 3 stitches, 4 stitches, 5 stitches. I think 6 stitch maybe, you probably could do more than that, but it gets harder to keep it gets harder to get it to close around the side if you get too many stitches. And I'll show you that in a minute. So what this is that, so I just cast it on, and this yarn's coming out of here, but instead of starting like this, I'm gonna push this down to the other side. This is a great use for double points, but you can do this on a regular 16-inch, 24-inch cable. It doesn't matter, you're just having to slide over the cable. This just makes it a little bit more efficient, but you can do it with any of those needles. Any needles you have, you can do it with. Okay, and now I'm gonna knit my 4 stitches. So now I have that yarn. It's gonna be hard to see this, sorry about that. So I have the yarn, see it's in the back here. It just crossed over all 4 stitches, all right? And what that's gonna do is that's gonna pull this first stitch and this last stitch together, and that's how it makes the tube, all right? So on the trick is on the 2nd stitch, you wanna pull really tight. On the 3rd stitch, you sort of wanna pull really tight. And then you just knit the rest of it. That was your 3rd stitch, you'd be done. So when you get done with your stitches, you just slide this over to the other side. Again, if you've got a cable, you just have to slide a bit longer. And again, my stitch is coming from the back stitch, my yarn, not the 1st stitch. And you just do this over and over and over again. Again, I'm pulling tight for the 2nd stitch. little bit for the third stitch. It's really the second stitch that gets it to start pulling into a tube. And why you need to pull that one, because if you don't, you'll see the yarn just sort of, you'll see this yarn going across your tube, and it doesn't, it's not closed fully. So it's very simple. Again, we use it a lot for a lot of different things. There's stuffed toys where the I-cord is like the arms and the legs. So you're going to keep doing this for however long you need to. And well, it's August, it's summer, it's heat, and yes, knitting happens all year round around here, not just during the cold months, because you can knit with silk. This doesn't sweat at all when you're working with it. And then of course we have cottons and linens and stuff like that you can knit, or just knitting baby, smaller things. I often crochet in the summer. I haven't really done it this summer because I have all these other things I'm doing, but if you crochet, I tend to crochet because, again, usually you're working with cotton and it's usually a smaller something in your lap and it's not so hot, but I don't know, doesn't bother me to knit all year round. Socks are also good because that does, even though it's wool, it doesn't sweat in your hands because it's just pretty small. But yeah, knitting all year round is a good thing. So come on in and get signed up for the classes or make the bags by yourself, whatever works for you. And I'll see you in the studio real soon. Bye.